reverse the shot. You've had a nice look at where we are today. Hello.
Hello.
I'm at the Pout Studios here in London. And it's me, Diane Youdale. Some of you will remember me as Jet from The Gladiators all those years ago. And this is my second of the Jet streams, with Jet Loves, which is...
It's a good name.
Thank you. And when I set up Jet Loves earlier this year, my intention was to, as a psychotherapist, meet people in a similar field who are working in a similar way and ask them why and where we're really at with our current understanding about the mind. And I thought, where better to start than my guest today, and my second Jet streamer, Andrew Johnson. I've got that right.
Well done, thank you very much. Not many people get it right.
Ah, did they say Johnston and anything else? Yeah. Well, you've flown down from Edinburgh to be in central London with me today, and I feel very, very flattered and very honoured.
It's a delight to be here.
It's lovely to meet you. I always get really excited when I meet other psyches, people that are working in a field of psychotherapy, applied psychology, and the rest. So please tell everybody and myself exactly what it is you do.
Well, my core training has been for the last 25 years clinical hypnosis. So a lot simpler from the sort of modes of work that you do, but generally working with individuals, helping them break habits. So the traditional way of starting as a hypnotherapist is to see smokers. Smoker. That's how most hypnotherapists start off making their money.
Okay.
And that is a pretty tried and tested. And it's because hypnotherapy is very good at helping people stop smoking, but also because the smokers are your adverts. They're the one who go out and talk about it. And after that, you start seeing a lot more, shall I say, interesting cases.
Oh.
So over the years, I've dealt with people with, phobic response.
Phobic response.
Yeah.
Describe what that is for those of us that might not know.
Well, the biggest phobia in the world is public speaking.
Ugh.
Talking into a camera or talking to a group. But basically, it's a mind-body response that something has happened in the past to give you a fright.
Okay.
In many cases, it starts from childhood. The big brother dropping the rubber spider down your shirt. You getting a real fright.
Right.
Thinking you're, in danger.
Of course.
And then for many people, a lot of the time, when you remember that memory, the unconscious mind, not knowing if it's real or imagined a lot of the time, will set off the same mechanism, giving you what you call fear.
So it's like a neural response, like a program that's sat in there, but from a trigger that actually isn't from the original trigger. Yes. Is that right?
Well, it can be. I mean, maybe you were, maybe a real tarantula was dropped on you, or you get stuck at a height, or there was something that caused you pain. But in many cases, it's something relatively trivial that starts it. It's just that the more that you get into this cycle of the mind thinking it and the body responding to it, the more it embeds itself.
And is that how you work with people? Do you actually explain how the mind may have arrived at the behaviour that is challenging for this person or stands in the way of them having a more normal life? Do you interview them and take notes? I mean, how does clinical hypnosis actually work?
Well, in many ways, you do a little case study.
Right.
And in a lot of occasions, the actual cause doesn't really matter. It's about what's happening now. It's the connection between the mind and the body. So you can retrain that, and you can do that in many ways. Hypnotherapy, you can take someone into deep relaxation, which really is all that hypnosis is, helping someone to go into a deep state of trance. If you're used to meditation, you would call it meditation or mindfulness. But then accessing the unconscious mind, bringing back slowly and gently the thought that would have caused the traumatic event, the traumatic emotion to come out.
Right.
And then you start diluting it, and you start diluting it, and you start diluting it. And theoretically, in most cases, in one session, you can break the mind-body connection.
Fantastic. I mean, when I trained as a psychotherapist, I then went on to do an NLP coaching training, and I just literally touched on the surface of hypnosis as part of the course I was training in. Thought, this is huge. It really is where things are embedded that really do shape our conscious behaviours from moment to moment. What drew you to it?
Well, I had always been fascinated with meditation. And I had done a little, and I mean a little, martial arts when I was younger. I mean 2 or 3 months, once a week, doing karate. But this was when I was, I guess, 14 or 15. But at the end of the karate class, the teacher did 5 or 10 minutes of meditation.
Oh, lovely.
You see?
Yeah.
And the people my friends from school that I went with sat there giggling. But I sat and thought, there's something to this. Yeah. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just knew that it was something I enjoyed and was benefiting me. And then the years went past. I did a variety of different careers, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. Almost 20 years passed. But during those 20 years, I was reading a lot of positive psychology books. So the old classics, you know.
Wow, and it wasn't really a thing, because all psychology seemed, I remember 20 odd years ago when I trained, it was all about the negative, the unresourceful, the challenges in life. There was very few, very little in terms of positive psychology. There's one chap in Cambridge at the time. I thought, I really want to study under him. And it was the only place I felt in the UK that was the case, until more of the coaching models did come across from the States.
Yeah, and how things have shifted in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I was working in a family business at that point, and I was reading a lot of books and thinking, how can I apply this to something that's a career? And someone came in and ordered a book on clinical hypnosis, and I sneakily read a few chapters before she came to pick it up, and I asked her about her training, and she told me, and I thought, this is fascinating. And that just started a journey, and I think it was 93, and I trained 94 into 95, and even before it was an 18-month course, and even before the diploma had finished, I was starting to see clients.
Does it help to have a great voice like yours as well? And that's a really surface thing to ask, but
well,
but it's vital though, isn't it? Because is it the induction, or when somebody's going into that, you yourself have the ability to create that safe space, and of course it's a very oral thing once somebody shuts out their visual acuity, so they're then being held essentially by where you lead as such back into a different way of sensing or being aware of their world. Yeah. So it would help to have a great voice like you.
It helps to have a soft accent, and I've worked with hypnotherapists all over the world, and obviously they've all got different accents. But I think once you go through training and you slow down and you deepen it and you create pauses. And I think the most important thing from my point of view is explaining hypnosis well, putting people at ease, because a lot of people still think that hypnosis is very much to do with this, all this
the metronome in the corner,
all this swinging watch, and that's the theatrical side, the stage hypnosis side. Mesmer,
That's where we got the word from, isn't it? Mesmeric.
Yep. Yeah. And so once people know that they're not going to be asleep, and once people know that they're not under any control, then they let go a bit more, and they realise that they're fully aware of what's going on. But in that deep state of relaxation, what you would call deep meditation, you can talk to the unconscious mind in the language that it understands. Well, and you can say, you need to stop this, or this is not the right behaviour, or you can break patterns and control pain, you can reduce pain issues and things like that. So it's a fascinating subject.
So you were drawn to it as a teenager through actually having an experience, particularly through martial arts, which I think is a great place for many people to start, sort of more of the Eastern kind of philosophies and culture that the Western mind, particularly back then, would only be exposed to possibly within a martial arts type of medium. But of course, if you've got an inquiring mind along the lines of ancient philosophy, which then became modern day psychology to some degree, or
Sure.
forebearing fathers of modern day psychological thought,
Yeah.
you just kind of know, don't you? Are you finding people more and more today, in this day and age, are naturally more interested in this phenomena of the mind?
Yes, I think that a few things have happened. Number one, there are a ton more therapists now than there used to be in my day. When I say my day, I'm talking 25 years ago. So there's a huge amount more counsellors, hypnotherapists. The big shift came about 10 years ago with mindfulness, and the fact that that started to be researched. And lo and behold, when it started to be scientifically researched, they started to find what we all sort of knew, that when you still the mind, you get huge benefits.
Yes.
When you let go of the past and let go of the future and stay more in the moment, there are huge benefits. And then you can start to, you can start to access the real power that we have within the mind. That's been the big shift. Quickly followed, I have to say, by the discussion about mental health. In the last 10 years and definitely in the last 2 or 3, this big discussion about mental health and people in the public eye coming forward and talking about their personal issues, whether it's with depression or anxiety or intrusive thoughts, that's really opened up the discussion, and there's less of a stigma now. Way too far to go. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but it's certainly opened.
In terms of how you work as a clinical hypnotherapist, just for any of us that don't know, what would be the difference between being a hypnotherapist that I've trained in a very surface way to the label of being a clinical hypnotherapist?
Well, it's a funny thing because that definition means different things to different folk. But a lot of hypnotherapists will train primarily in, and I don't mean to say these are the simple things, but the stopping smoking, the breaking habits, the weight control, the confidence building. When you go into clinical things, you're talking about obstetrics and childhood issues. You're talking about deep pain control. You're talking about childhood regression and things like this. So there are many forms that it takes, and you can go quite a bit deeper. I never really specialised in anything because I found that would have taken me, I needed to have, excuse me, I needed to have quite a wide audience with what I was doing. So I never really specialised in one particular thing.
Well, is it true that you were one of the first clinicians essentially in your field to be putting it into a media and a format so more people could access hypnotic inducement for well-being, for sleeping and for other things like, is that right?
Well, with the apps, yes. I mean, most hypnotherapists have recordings and they give them to clients.
Yes.
So here is a stop speed cassette, or here is a CD, or here is an MP3. But when the CDs sort of turned into MP3s and people started saying, I don't have a CD player anymore, but I've got an iPod, then many people in my industry started selling MP3s. And of course you can sell them digitally, so websites became big with that. So there was a lot of people in my industry selling MP3s and doing it relatively successfully. The apps, however, changed everything. And I was very, very fortunate to get into the App Store 10 years ago with my business partner in America. So I do the content and he does the coding. And I think we were the first people to do relaxation, meditation, mindfulness, self-help recordings on the App Store.
Fantastic. And how long ago was that?
That was 2008. Yes, this is we've 11 years of the iPhone and 10 years of the App Store. So we were really early, within 6 months of the App Store opening, when there was only 26,000 apps. There are now 4 million, I think.
Wow.
So big changes.
So it's really is a progressive field and progressing all the while. So anybody that's watching and listening, if they wanted to work with you, what sorts of areas do you work with? If there's anyone listening, I wonder if you could work with me and help me with X or whatever, what would you say to
Well,
them?
These days I tend not to see many clients. But hypnotherapy can work with a huge variety of things. And I have connections with hypnotherapists throughout Britain and further afield through my governing body. So I can always point them in the right direction. So if anyone gets in touch to ask questions about hypnosis or clinical hypnotherapy, I can answer them, whether it's me that works with them or not. Because it really, hypnotherapy from my point of view needs to be done face to face.
Yes.
I've tried over the years a couple of Skype conferences or Skype sessions. I had one memorable occasion where the woman was in deep trance and her cat came over and started crawling round her shoulders, round the back of the couch, started nibbling her ear, and I thought, that's not really going to work.
Right.
So you can't really control it that way. And you don't want to be halfway through a really deep session and lose the broadband connection.
No, that's true.
So it needs.
I find that a lot with jet love sometimes.
It happens. It does
of course.
happen. It's just not the right thing to happen when someone is in deep trance.
Absolutely.
Not that there'd be any danger, but they would probably either fall asleep or they would just open their eyes and find out that the broadband had finished.
So what's next for you in terms of, is there any other area in the field of psychology or applied psychology or group work that you'd be looking at developing or going into for the future? Well,
our latest app is a subscription app called Holistrio, and HOLISTROIO. Holistrio, it's a portmanteau of holistic and trio.
Oh, okay.
And the trio being...
You've just tapped that in, people will be able to find out a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we wanted a word that wasn't used anywhere else. So holistrio.com takes you to our website where you can sign up and access 3 free recordings.
Fantastic.
And if you like them, you can then pay a monthly subscription or for a year and download the app and on Android or iPhone, and I think it's got 240 recordings in it.
Great.
And this is going to allow us, as it grows, or it's going to allow me as the content creator to do deeper subjects.
Wow.
So instead of just doing the popular ones, confidence building and positivity and relaxed driving and things like that, I can start going deep into pain control. I can start doing specific things like pain control for arthritis. And a range. I have a list as long as my arm of recordings that people have suggested over the years, but they wouldn't work for single subject apps.
Okay.
So that's one thing, and I'm also starting to do a bit more corporate work. I used to do a lot of corporate work in the past, but when the apps started becoming really successful, I sort of pulled out of that. I just didn't want to travel anymore.
That can be a thing, can't it?
So I'm starting to do that again now.
Engage a bit more. And sometimes we have to take a step back, don't we, at various times in our life.
Yeah.
Motorways, too many planes. I should be complaining, but it's a privilege to travel. But you've got to have a certain motivation. Where your values sit is where motivation lies. We know this quite a lot with the subconscious mind. And sometimes you go through a phase in your life where that sort of waxes and wanes a little bit, and you've got to listen to that and take action and do a bit of self-care. So it brings me on to...
Self-care is important.
Well, how are you doing your self-care? Because I often find it fascinating when I do meet people who are in medicine or caring professions, you know, it is heal thyself. You know, how do you do it core for you if it's not too personal a thing for me to ask?
Oh, well... That's a funny thing.
That got the reaction.
It's a funny thing. I've started doing a little bit of yoga. Okay. I am in no way flexible, and I'm realising that now at the age I am. But starting to do a bit more yoga, and as many people have said, you shouldn't do yoga because you're not flexible. And of course, the reason for doing yoga is to become flexible. I've also realised in the past 3 or 4 months that I need to process things in a different way. So I need to spend time in quiet. Yeah. I need to spend time after a meeting or after some goal setting or after some corporate stuff. I need to go away and sit down and not really do anything. And that processes it, that allows it to settle. And the biggest thing for me is trying to drink enough water. Stay hydrated.
I was going to say something else. We're trying to drink enough beer,
I
alcohol.
do that already.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
it's
problem.
enough was the hydration of
Yeah.
of water as
Yeah,
well.
the hydration's super important.
It is. You know, I read a really interesting book back in the mid-80s by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, and it was called Fit for Life. And it was one of the very early books on like food combining, I think, in those days, looking at separating carbs and proteins.
Yeah.
But they were very, very big on a high water content foods, saying that actually just drinking water alone sometimes isn't the best way to do hydration. It's the high water content foods, like particularly your salads and your vegetables, because of the slight mineral and electrolyte balances in it, so the body can recognise and keep that hydrated. And I think that's kind of an important thing to remember, isn't it, when we talk about hydration?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important that people, because I'm trying to do this also, I think it's important that people say, okay, you should be drinking, and you can correct me on this, but it should be 2 to 3 litres of water a day.
Depends on particularly what temperatures you're exposed to. So if you're in hotter climes or say during summer, you are naturally going to just have water coming off the body, or using water more readily because of just temperature content, really.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people then think, okay, I need to do this for health, it's really important, and they get 2 or 3 litre bottles and they put them on the kitchen counter and they go, good God, how am I going to drink that? That's ridiculous. But if you actually split it up in the hours of the day, it's 2 or 3 mouthfuls once an hour. It's not much. I think this is one of the big problems that people have, generally speaking. They think of what they want to achieve and they look at the big picture and think, I can't do that. When in actual fact, it's all small steps.
I was going to ask you if there's any sort of tips or hacks that, because obviously if you're doing it and appropriating it in your own life, it's working for you. And there's something in that, isn't there? That how do you eat an elephant? I suppose it's not the best phrase.
Start at the tail and move forward.
Small chunks, exactly. You've got to do things in small stages. And also the whole drinking lots of water thing, 'cause I do a lot of travelling, and it's just a pain in that to have to stop to keep going to the loo.
Yes.
So it's about timing in the day as well, and knowing that you're going to be around a loo for a few hours, and it is really important.
It is.
First thing in the morning, so it's all kind of out before you have to hit the road and travel and stuff.
But also you've got to get through that stage where you're peeing, excuse my friend, but you're peeing all the time. You're going to the toilet all the time. It does settle down again after a while.
And do you know what I say as well with peeing? It's a great subject, isn't it?
Piddling.
Piddling. Is pee clear at least twice a day. Because if you actually look at your pee, and if it's a very dark colour, and you can often, there's an aroma to very dark smelling pee, you can tell the level of dehydration that you're actually
How did we get into this subject?
I don't know.
No.
Let's move on quickly. I would love to ask you a few just little silly quick fire questions, if that's all right.
Okay.
Just to finish our time together on this jet stream, and for whoever else you would like to share this with as well.
Okay.
Andrew. Let me just get rid of this BT wanting me to sign on to something. What would be your chimera? So these are a number of questions. Starting with this, chimera would be half human, half animal. What would you be?
Dolphin.
Really?
Yes.
I like that.
I like fish.
You like, well, it would eat a lot of fish, wouldn't it? But also the brain on a dolphin and that whole, we're just only touching the surface, aren't we, really, about just really how
Depends which half is which, doesn't it?
Which
bit is dolphin and not.
Moving on.
Yes.
And I'm just being asked by BT again to sign on. I'll get rid of that. Okay, favourite mode of transport?
Go for work, train.
Train?
Yeah, I like the train rather than flying, but for speed, like today, the flight, definitely.
No, thank you very much for that. Favourite food?
Probably a really good Indian meal.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Activity, exercise here, so I'm just trying to reconnect with you. If you can still see us and hear us.
Hello,
the count
world.
is, we're back on. I'm not quite sure how long that disconnect had been.
Okay,
So
can't be that far.
we can't be that long. But let's go. Okay.
Hopefully it cut out the half man, half dolphin conversation.
Possibly. Hopefully not. We'll do that again. No. Who would you like to interview most, past and present, in your life?
Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what would you ask him?
I don't know what I'd ask him. Favourite joke, because he knows he's got a great sense of humour.
Apparently,
Yeah. How he spends his day. Things like that. He's a wonderful man.
Brilliant.
Oh, and Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Power of Now, everybody. That's the book to read. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Lovely, great recommendation there. And have you got a hobby that would surprise us to know that you have or do? And you can go where you want with this.
I don't think I do. Music's the big thing for me, all the time. Headphones are on all the time. No, I don't. My life is pretty full.
That sounds good to me.
Although I have started reading again in the last, after a pause of about 10 years, I'm now reading.
Isn't it
Hugely
odd how
again.
you can fall
Yeah.
out of love, but you've got to be in that again, that right
Yeah.
space to go, do you know, I just need to ingest knowledge through my eyes in the reading context, or either listening audiobooks and stuff, but
Sure.
to actually get back into reading. I'm completely with you on
Yeah.
that. Okay, favourite place in the UK?
Edinburgh.
Favourite place in the world?
Edinburgh.
What's the thing you spend most money on?
Well, if you take out where you live, if you take that out, probably food and a little bit of travelling.
Ah,
Yeah,
I thought so. What would you like in your Christmas stocking this year?
world peace. And if that isn't possible, world peace. Oh, I'd like them to pull the plug on Brexit. Sorry, folks, if you're one of those, you know, but yeah.
New Year, finish this sentence. New Year is to bring me.
Potential.
You're a potentialist.
I'm a potentialist.
Yeah,
Full of potential in 2019.
fabulous. History or future?
No, neither in the moment.
Coast or country?
Coast.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Indoors, outdoors?
Both.
And what do you do that's free and you love?
Walking. Walking in nature, mindful walking is the thing for me. That's my go-to thing.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your
You
time
are so welcome.
with me here today on Jetstream, and for yourself, of course, with your work. And just remind everybody how people can find you, contact you.
Well, if you go to andrewjohnson.co.uk, it's JOHNSON, andrewjohnson.co.uk, you'll find all the links to corporate training, MP3s, social media, the apps, and a ton more stuff. Yeah.
I need a hug.
No, thanks.
Very therapy.
Hug therapy.
Hug therapy.
It's good for you, you know.
It is. It absolutely is. Recommended. Bye, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Oh.